So I've been getting a lot of comments about Resident Evil 4 Remake and how can players improve their graphics in the game, whether they're on console or on PC. This video is going to help you guys with that, and it's going to look pretty good, I'm not going to lie. When it comes to the PC settings for Resident Evil 4 Remake, there's actually a little cheat or a hack built into the game's graphics settings that a lot of people are not utilizing to the full advantage. And don't worry, we're going to be talking about all of that, guys. We're going to timestamp the console settings and we're going to timestamp the PC settings, so go to whichever one helps you guys out. If you guys have been loving the Resident Evil content, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more. We got plenty of videos coming out for this game and many more titles that are releasing throughout the rest of this year. You don't want to be anywhere else because we got you guys all covered with the latest. And also hit that like button if these graphic settings helped you guys out. Let's get this video to 1,000 likes so that everybody can get in on the fun and also play Resident Evil at very high quality. Starting with console, we do have a PlayStation 5 only method where you can go into the settings, go into your display settings, screen and video output, and you're going to want to make sure that you guys go all the way to the bottom, and right where it says RGB range all the way at the bottom, you're gonna click on that and make sure it's not unlimited or it's not on automatic. Automatic might be good for some people, but just put it on full. This way you're gonna get the full range of colors and overall deeper output of them, and it just looks much more crispier. I don't know if you could see the previous image and how that looked versus now, but it looks pretty good. And of course, make sure that if you're using a 4K TV, you're using 4K on your PlayStation 5. To start things off, we're actually going to have to do the graphic settings from the main menu of Resident Evil 4, because on console, you cannot change the visuals and action priority from resolution and frame rate. You can't do that while in the game, unfortunately, but we're going to make sure to do that right now. So on the PS5, you actually can have it on resolution mode and it will still be 60 frames. Performance or frame rate mode can get up to 120 frames, I believe, but it doesn't look that great. Throw it on resolution. Don't worry. I know some of you guys watching this probably have it on frame rate and just haven't changed it at all. Try resolution. It most definitely will do 60 frames. That's how I've been running it myself. Now, ray tracing is one of those things that I like to have on because, I mean, if the game can run it and stay at 60 frames, then why not make it look the best that it possibly can, right? So I'm gonna turn that on. It shows you a little picture on the far right as to how different that actually makes it look. The RE engine is optimized very well. This is the case for all their games. So you essentially, on console especially, are able to run this perfectly fine. HDR, I personally don't use it. I have an HDR TV, but I've been having issues with my capture card and the HDR on the TV, so I opt to take it off. So before we adjust the brightness though, chat, we're gonna wanna go all the way down at the bottom of display, and I talked about this also in our previous brightness fix video, but it's really important to bring it up here. By default, the game is going to be on sRGB. sRGB is a standard color option that majority of TVs are going to feature. However, on newer displays, it can look pretty washed out, and you can adjust this in the game to see for yourself, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to put this on Rec 709, and I know it's going to look a little bit darker, but what this is going to do, it's overall going to bring your image and your overall color to a better non-washed up look. Trust me on this, guys. Rec 709. If you have a TV or a monitor that was manufactured after like 2016, 2017, Rec 709 is the way to go. And now we go for the brightness. For those that don't know, I actually made a video all about the brightness previously, but we're going to talk about it again here because it's really important for the quality of the way your game is going to look. So all Resident Evil games have this 3-screen brightness setup. It's how you control the whites of your screen and also the blacks, and you can fine-tune that image at the end to overall make it look a little bit more crispier. So what I typically like to do, and this has worked for a lot of people in the previous video, is from the middle, you're gonna go right 3 times on the first screen. So that's 1, 2, 3. Press X. And now from here, some TVs, this is important, some TVs naturally, like an OLED TV, already have a very crispy or deep black. If you're using like an OLED TV, you might want to do 2 towards the brighter side and go from there. But if you don't have an OLED screen TV, or you just want to follow my settings and then fine-tune it, configure it afterwards for yourself, I like to go down twice on this screen. So twice left from the middle. Now on the third and final screen, this is the overall brightness on the screen, where you're basically trying to find the perfect middle ground between the two settings previously. We're gonna go right 7 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now some of you guys' TVs by default are gonna be a little bit brighter, and some of you guys' TVs are gonna be darker. I myself like to run my TVs on a minimal brightness. When playing games, it's usually on like 30, but when I'm surfing on the web and using the computer in general or editing, I like to have it on like 7 or like 10. But try this out, guys. It's helped out a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of comments about how amazing this was for them. And we're gonna press X. Lens distortion, I like to have it on with chromatic aberration, but some people might want to turn it off because it does mess with some people's eyes. But I personally have it on. Depth of field overall brings the image to a nice crispy look, especially when there's perspective involved, which we're playing a video game with lots of cutscenes. There's definitely going to be perspective involved. And the hair strands. Some people like this. I personally don't. I don't think it looks great. I don't like it in any game. So I turn it off so it can look good, and also we get a little bit of performance back from it because this does use some processing power. Now under camera, we're gonna put the field of view all the way up. By default, it's gonna be in the middle, but you're gonna wanna max this out. In Resident Evil 4, it's a design choice for the field of view to be a little bit up close and Leon be really close to the camera, sort of to create an anxious feel towards it. So there's not really much you could do with the FOV. It's a design choice of the game. And personally, I hate motion blur. I turn this shit off. I do not like the way it looks. I don't like the way it feels. I just turn it off. Now you can turn it on if you guys want. By all means, experiment with this. The best thing about this video is that you're going to be able to take majority of these settings, especially when we get to the PC version, and apply it to your own rig to find your sweet spot. But I have motion blur off. And I know this isn't really a graphic setting, but I just wanted to point this out, guys. Ballistic impact volume, put that on large. I know a lot of people complain and say that the gunshots and overall sound effects in Resident Evil 4 Remake don't sound that great, but do yourself a solid and put this on large and try it out. And if you're using headphones, of course, put it on headphones, guys. And there we go, we're in the game, and this is essentially how it should look. Now again, play with your brightness and make sure to try to get to a level that you're really comfortable with. And if you want, you can turn back on sRGB to see what it looks like. And yeah, by comparison, it's, to me, the colors lose a lot with this. Everybody's display is going to be different, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to run Rec 709. And that's the PS5 version. On Xbox, you're pretty much going to be able to follow every single setup I just talked about, including the RGB limited to full on the console system itself. They should have something like that built into it. I don't personally have an Xbox set up, at least at the moment, so I can't show you guys it right now. But now we're gonna get into the PC settings because it's pretty cool. And now we switched over to the PC so I can show you guys the best PC setup and graphical options for Resident Evil 4 Remake. And a lot of this will apply to, in general, lots of games on PC. To give you guys a quick heads up, I do have an RTX NVIDIA 3090 graphics card. Is the EVGA FTW3 model. It's one of the more top of the line ones, but don't worry, these settings I'm about to show you guys will work for majority of the graphics cards on the market, even if you have a 10 series and an AMD card. I know some of you guys are probably saying, hell no, I'm not updating my drivers, because there are a lot of people, believe it or not, even myself at one point, that when you would update your drivers, your graphics card would just go to shit and games just run really bad. I have an explanation as to why that happens, and it's pretty weird, but it's gonna solve a lot of you guys' problems. But if you're on NVIDIA, you can use a program called GeForce Experience to install your drivers. AMD has one very similar to this, and it's called Adrenaline Software. You can get your drivers from there as well. What you're gonna do, make sure your drivers are up to date and you're good to go. As you guys can see, this latest 531.41 driver, which came out last week, does have some stuff for Resident Evil 4. I just said that sometimes when people update their drivers, they run into issues with their card not functioning properly, and this bothered me for a long time. I actually even resent a card in for a warranty claim when I didn't need to because of this issue. But at the very least, I ended up getting a brand new 3090 with it. So there are multiple programs where you can monitor your GPU and the performance of it, obviously, and the fans as well. There's MSI Afterburner, which is one of the more popular ones, and then there's this one called Precision X1, which is what I use, made by EVGA. We're not going to be overclocking or tuning anything in this, but guys, there's one major thing that has been blowing my mind ever since I found it out. Whenever you update your drivers, sometimes, stupidly enough, your power target for your graphics card will be reset to default either 20 or 24 power, meaning your graphics card will not be pushing out any power at all, and your frames are going to look so choppy. And when people see this, they get scared. They reset their computer, they turn it back on, and it's still choppy and they don't know why. So they end up using DDU to uninstall in safe mode the drivers and revert back to an older one. When all you actually have to do is open back up your EVGA Precision X and raise the power levels back up. By default, your power levels are usually at 100, but my card's a little bit more powerful, so I like to crank it up to 107. It can go to 107. Some of you guys can only go to 100. If you can go up to 107, I recommend you do it. Hit apply, and of course, make sure your fan settings are good, guys. I have a curve control for my fans. This is what it looks like for me. You can copy this if you guys want it. Link all the fan curves also, by the way. Make sure the fan control is also on, or if you don't have this checked off, it's not going to use this. The power target tends to drop sometimes for some people whenever you do an update to your GPU drivers. And the same thing happens for the fans. Whenever I update my GPU drivers, my power goes, for whatever reason, down from 107 to 24. I have to raise it up manually. And also, it'll deselect my fan curve control, where I have to come back in here and all I have to do is make sure that's checked on, hit apply, and I'm good to go. Please make sure you guys are updating your drivers and double checking the power target. I promise you this is happening to a lot of cards. It even happened to my MSI 3070 in the streaming computer with MSI Afterburner. But now that we got the drivers installed, your fans are set up properly on your GPU no matter what model it is, we can now boot up Resident Evil 4. So now we're in the PC version of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and if you look on the top right, I'm getting on average when idle around 100 frames. When I start moving around and action is happening on screen, I sometimes dip to 80, but honestly, it looks pretty good. First things first, make sure your field of view is cranked all the way up. And now we're gonna go into display. You can follow essentially the same exact brightness setup that we showed earlier on the PS5 version, but that's 3 brightness over on the first screen, 2 brightness over on the second screen, and about 6 or 7 brightness over on the third and final screen. Color space, same thing, Rec 709, so you get the best possible colors in your game. Now when it comes to graphics, I'm playing in my TV's resolution of 4K. You don't have to. Obviously match this towards your display monitor and set up properly. Monitor's refresh rate is 144 Hertz. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that's what you have your game set to run at. This is just what your TV monitor's refresh rate is. So if yours is 120 Hertz, even though you're not trying to run it at 120 Hertz, put it on 120. Same thing goes for 60. My screen is flashing whenever I adjust this, but mine actually is 144 Hertz, so I'm putting it to 144 Hertz. Now for the frame rate, I have it on variable. You put yours down to whatever you want. This is gonna see my mouse frames dropped when I put it to 30. That's locking my game at 30 frames, which is horrible. Don't do that on a 144 Hertz monitor. Do 60. 60 is good. You're gonna get overall solid performance. And if you're streaming and you don't mind, might as well put it at 60, right? I'm getting on average about 90 frames, but I put it on variable. Why not? And in this game, full screen will always get you about 5 to 6 more frames than windowed borderless. It's not necessarily just like this game thing. That essentially happens to most and majority PC games. So right now on full screen, we have about 130, 128, 129 frames per second. But let's go over here and change it from full screen to windowed borderless to show you guys I do lose about 5 to 6 frames on average. So now, standing still, same exact spot, we're about 123 frames per second, 124. So we're talking about a 5 to 6 decrease in the frames. This is why I stay on full screen. Even though it does kind of get annoying while I'm streaming, I'm all about the performance at the end of the day. Plus, I think I could click off. Yeah, look, if I actually, wait a minute, if I go into the menu here, right, I could actually click off while it's on full screen and access other things on my computer. Okay, so that works out. That works out perfectly. VSync I have on because I do have a G-Sync monitor, but oftentimes I still see some screen tearing and it's a little bit annoying, so I just throw VSync on. Cinematics resolution, I have it on 4K. It looks like on PC, you cannot adjust the ray tracing while in-game, but I have my ray tracing set to high, but you can adjust it for yourself accordingly. Now, this is the main thing I wanted to talk to you guys about and why I wanted to make this video, because I know a lot of people are probably saying, how can you make a video about the best PC graphics settings if you if everybody's gonna have a different build essentially, right? Which I get and I understand. However, FidelityFX Super Resolution is an absolute game changer and will work wonders on older graphics cards. This is AMD technology, but it's backwards compatible and works perfectly fine with NVIDIA cards. It's like 10 series. This is AMD technology, but it's backwards compatible and works perfectly fine with NVIDIA cards. What this basically does is it enhances and constantly adjusts your image on the fly while you're playing games to get the best quality while maintaining the best amount of frames that it can get. So I'm actually gonna have this off so I can show you guys a quick glimpse at what we can expect. So I have it off right now. My image quality is at 100% because I'm playing in 4K. You don't want to go any higher than that or else it's just gonna run pretty shit for one thing. It does look a little bit better, but Rendering mode, we have it on normal. For anti-aliasing, FXAA plus TAA or TAA by itself. Personally, I think the image looks better with both of them, so I have it on that. I have a lot of VRAM, so I'm using 8 gigs, but some people might be running it at 4 gigs, 3 gigs, or even 6 gigs. My texture filtering is maxed the hell out because trust me guys, no matter how high you have your graphics set at, this FidelityFX Super Resolution, the #1 one, does wonders for everybody's rig. And just to show you guys, yeah, I do have everything maxed out. Ambient occlusion I have on SSAO. There is a FidelityFX version, but I don't get great performance with this on. And I've actually been reading that it doesn't run properly, so it's best to just disable it. Hair strands on PC I also have off. Graphic dismemberment, I want that on. Persistent corpses, I want it on max. Many, give me all of them that you can. Corpse physics, have it on high, and diverse enemy animations, I have it on as well. Motion blur, off. Rain quality, I have it set to high because I personally like the way it looks. Terrain on, destructible environments on, lens flare on, lens distortion, chromatic aberration on, depth of field on, resource intense lighting quality set to high, and intense effects quality is also set to high. I know I'm running everything on max, but just to show you guys here, we have the super resolution thing off, and right now I'm getting about 83 frames according to the overlay on the top right, which is still pretty good. Still pretty good for my machine. However, I can get an extra 10 to 20 frames thanks to FidelityFX. Now, you might be wondering why are there 2 of these? Well, Super Resolution 1 tells you that this one is actually going to be changing the optimization of upscaling for higher image quality while maintaining a fast frame rate with a focus on the speed. I use this one over this one because this one is going to maintain a high image quality at fast frame rate with a focus more on image quality. And the highest quality setting they have is just quality, whereas the frame rate one has ultra quality. And even though this one does use less processing power, to me this one looks and feels phenomenal. And now we'll see, look, now I went up from 80 something frames, we're at 100 guys. And this thing looks beautiful. You're always gonna get a boost in frames because it's constantly adjusting your screen quality to maintain the best possible look while also maximizing your frame output. So overall, the game is going to run good and look really good. FidelityFX is amazing, guys. It works phenomenal on every single graphics GPU. Now, RTX cards do have access to a thing called DLSS. Resident Evil 4 Remake doesn't have DLSS, but what that is essentially is a similar concept, but NVIDIA uses an AI to constantly keep adjusting the image on the fly. There's DLSS 1, 2, and 3 out, I believe. 3 is limited to the 40 series cards, which are pretty expensive and a lot of people don't necessarily have at the moment, whereas FidelityFX works on older cards and runs really good no matter what. You don't even need an AMD card to use Fidelity very flawlessly. At ultra quality over the Super Resolution 2 at just regular quality. Now you can adjust these also, go to lower quality, which will be a little bit more of a focus on performance boosting. You do a balance if you want the best of both worlds. And then you got performance, which is going to downscale some aspects of the quality to maintain a really higher frame rate. The more frames you have, the more responsive and fluid the gameplay is going to be. But screw all that shit, bro. Ultra quality all day. Maintain good frames and the game looks really good. It's just upscaling the image even more without sacrificing performance. There's no reason why you should have this off. I hope my capture card is also recording this properly. I mean, you guys can see on the top right, it's 90 something frames, 100 sometimes. There we go. But you know, OBS can be weird sometimes. Like right now, my preview on OBS is kind of choppy, whereas the gameplay is very smooth and buttery. Coño. Get him. Dang, I'm not close enough to run up on him and kick him. Let's try to get more people on the screen so this way you guys can get an idea of what the frame rates can look like when there's multiple stuff going on. We're still maintaining the high 90s. I also have no ammo. That pig got my back though. But yeah, it looks really good. I mean, we got a decent amount of enemies on the screen, about 6 of them. Well, actually 5 of them now. And we still got ourselves 100+ frames. It's looking really good. Take advantage of FidelityFX, guys, even if you do not have an AMD card. If you're not using it, you are severely handicapping your build. And again, I'm gonna turn it off to show you guys real quick. With it off, I'm still getting a good amount of frames, but I mean, I'd rather have 100 frames than 85. You know what I mean? That beautiful, crispy 120 frames with a nice 4K resolution. Upscalers are amazing, guys. If FidelityFX worked out for you guys, please drop a comment and let me know how you're enjoying it. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Resident Evil videos are on the way and you do not want to miss them. My name is BltzZ and thanks for watching.